This is Finding the Middle Ground, local edition. I'm Joe from the MiddleGround Mic. Hit follow, share this episode. Join us at themiddlegroundmic.com/newsletter for deeper coverage and access to ad-free episodes. Because tonight we're breaking down how Michigan's budget proves that the middle isn't weak, it's where the work gets done. After months of delaying political finger pointing, essentially, Michigan's new $81 billion budget finally crossed the finish line, and it's called a bipartisan success story. But here's what that really means for you. The state added a 24% wholesale tax on marijuana between producers and dispensaries, expected to raise roughly $420 million a year for the roads. Where I'm anti-tax for the most part, right? But where I guess this is one that if I had to, I could say I could live with because we make a choice to buy products in our lives. From my understanding, this does not impact medical marijuana. The people who need it for medical reasons are okay. And then, we need the money and it's an optional tax. It's not needed for most people's, basic functions. Gas tax revenues are now locked in for infrastructure, not general spending. So that means your gas taxes are actually going to go to fixing the roads and not whatever they choose for. A long-term fix the damn roads win for Governor Whitmer. Got to give it to her. She finally stuck to it. Education got its largest boost ever in the state of Michigan. $24 billion total, pushing per pupil funding in the state of Michigan above $10,000 statewide. That's a $1 billion pump for roads. Schools sweetened the deal enough for both parties to sign off. Public transit, hospital, environmental budgets were saved at the last minute through closed-door negotiations. But, and there's always a but, several programs were quietly gutted or converted into one-time funding, including drinking water affordability, which was cut in half. Environmental funding was spared only after grassroots pressures forced lawmakers back to the table. This wasn't unity. It was endurance, the kind of messy, uncomfortable middle ground that actually makes democracy work. Not perfect, but progress. Compromise, people. Compromise. It is the art of compromise that will save us. And if you're wondering what this means for you and your community, Detroit is already getting ready to feel the ripple effect. Detroit, and the big stories in the state, right? The city's had a rough week. 2 people were charged in the death of a 9-year-old boy in a case that sparked outrage over Michigan's child welfare oversight. City leaders are now under pressure to investigate systemic negligence inside the guardianship system. Meanwhile, census data is showing that over half of Detroit's children now live below the poverty line, despite the city on the comeback. A stat that should make every lawmaker in Lansing stop celebrating and start acting and taking further action than just passing a budget. A man was arrested after a multi-county theft ring involving stolen firearms and farm equipment. Thank God he's off the street. These are some headlines from across the state. The DNR's Hunters Feeding Michigan program hit a record of 560,000 meals served, a reminder that community action still beats red tape every time and is more effective. Lansing officials are preparing a Pod City housing plan for the homeless, expected to launch mid-2026. I know some people are not going to like that, especially some of my friends on the right, but guess what? We have to do something for these people. It'll help clean up the city. It'll help give them some stability and hopefully give them a launching point to fix their lives in the direction that they see fit. And the new Michigan Home Program aims to spend $800 million over 5 years to create or rehab 10,000 affordable units statewide. But here's the real tension. Next week, battles to flare over who actually gets this new funding: rural versus urban, Detroit versus Grand Rapids, left versus right. And don't overlook the brewing storm around the new marijuana tax. Small dispensaries are already talking about suing. It's another Michigan week where progress depends on who's watching and who's willing to call out the spin. And that's what you're always going to get here with us. Let's talk a little bit about the Detroit Lions. Man, have they really, they really got us all going. They're rocking it again. But let's something that we can all get our hearts wrapped around. Our Lions are 4-1. They're leading the NFC North, proving that this isn't a fluke season and that those 2 coordinators weren't all there was to the team. Team chemistry is strong. The defense is hungry, even despite the injuries. And Jared Goff's leadership is clicking with both veterans and rookies. Jameson Williams, recently, if you haven't kept up, locked in a 3-year, $83 million extension, which on a lot of receivers, that's not really a bad price. Rookie Tyleik Williams is emerging as a defensive monster. He's quick, he's disciplined, and explosive off the line, and makes a lot of impact plays. But here comes the difficult point. Taylor Decker is out once again. Vontae Maddox, Giovanni Manu, and Terrion Arnold are sidelined. Even Ali McNeil and Zach Cunningham are banged up still, but I mean, Ali McNeil's on the comeback, so because coming off that injury. Our secondary's thin, and they're walking up against Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelsey. We're granted, yeah, they're not having the greatest year, but that's still who they are. If they pull this off, it won't just be another win. It'll be a statement that grit, depth, and adaptation matter more than flash, and Dan Campbell has proved that time and time again. And if they stumble, the questions may shift. The Lions built to sustain pressure or just perform when everything's perfect? I think that they're built to withstand pressure, even sometimes when they lose. The only people who are going to be saying that they just perform when everything's perfect are the people that are just chasing headlines. Sorry, because all it took was one whoop, lost pew, man. Everybody's jumping on that wagon. Get them clicks. Sound familiar, Michigan? Our politics could use the same test. Let's kind of close this out a little bit. The middle is work. $1 billion budget in this state has shown us something that's bigger than the numbers. It shows that the middle isn't quiet. It's the battleground where real progress gets hammered out, and why I advocate state control over a lot of things, not federal control. I'm not saying state control of your lives, state control over a lot of issues that the federal government handles. Why? Because look at them. They actually got something done. Congress can't even figure out how to pay the electric bill. But whether it's our Lions holding the line or lawmakers fighting for funding, the middle is where endurance beats outrage. And here we are going to keep pushing it until we dominate the headlines across Apple, Spotify, and everything that you can think of. I'm Joe. This is Finding the Middle Local Edition. Subscribe, share, and sign up at themiddlegroundmic.com/newsletter for exclusive episodes, updates, and ad-free episode access. Because the middle doesn't wait, it moves, and so do we. No left, no right, forward.